Good morning. Today we are moving on to Chapter 6, which is solving inequalities. We're going to start with addition and subtraction and then move on to multiplication and division. So first it says, write an inequality represented by the graph. Before we even do that, we're going to review what our inequality symbols are. So like in L, this one means less than. And then the other direction, instead of less than, would be greater than. And if we're going to graph these on a number line, a less than, let's say I just look at 0, this is going to be represented by an open circle because I'm just less than 0. If I was equal to 0, I would color that circle in. So this is what we call an open circle. And then, like in L, less than would be shaded numbers that are less than 0, like negatives, -1, -2, this direction. So we have the circle, and we're pointing to the left. If you want, you can put an arrow in here to show that it's pointing to the left. But we know this symbol right here is L for less than. That means the other one, greater than, if I look at 0 here again, this is also an open circle because we're not equal to, we're just starting at 0, and we're looking at all the numbers greater than 0. Well, 1, 2, 3 to the right would be numbers greater than 0. If we have less than or equal to, I'm going to shorten that, the opposite way would be greater than or equal to. And let's graph these as well. Looking at our number line, less than or equal to first. This one, because it has the line underneath, the equal to part, means I could be exactly equal to 0. So that's why I'm going to do a closed circle instead of an open circle. Oops, I didn't want that whole thing there. So this is a closed circle. Like I said over here, this one was open circle because it's not filled in. And then less than, like in L, less than 0 would be -1, -2 to the left. And then greater than or equal to, again, it would be a closed circle. And greater than 0 would be 1, 2, 3 to the right. And you can put a line in there making an arrow pointing to the right if you'd like. So now that we have a quick review of less than, greater than, and our new part with the graphs, let's look at a graph. So this one is starting at -6.5 and it's an open circle. So I know it's just going to be less than or greater than, no equal to line. We're less than or greater than -6.5. So all of these numbers shaded in this direction are greater than or less than -6.5. Well, these are towards 0 or the positive numbers. So these are greater than, so not like L for less than, the other way would be greater than 6.5. Well, what's greater than 6.5? All of these numbers are greater than 6.5. So I'm just going to use the letter X to represent all the numbers to the right. All the numbers to the right are greater than -6.5. Same thing here, but this one's a closed circle and we're pointing to the left. So we're starting at 4, and we could be equal to 4, but we're all the numbers less than 4, so less than or equal to 4. And I'm going to use maybe the letter A. All these numbers are less than or equal to 4, the shaded side. So let's take a look now at a couple of problems we have to solve and then graph it ourselves. We're going to solve these like regular equations. Draw your line down. And we want R all by itself. The opposite of subtracting 4 would be adding 4, just like we did when we solved equations. So we have R is less than, and we have -5 plus 4. That gives us a -1. Now, we can graph this. We can only graph if our letter is on the left. R is less than -1. So I'm going to draw a number line. Instead of always putting 0 in the middle, I'm going to put whatever number I get, -1. Going to the left would be -2. Going to the right, positive numbers would be towards 0. So this one is an open circle because there's no equal to at -1. And then like in L, less than is to the left. So numbers, bigger negative numbers. Alright, let's try the next one. We want C by itself, so I'm going to add 6.7. Those are gone. We have C. And then add these up, 0.8. 6 plus 2 is also 8. This one looks good, but we can't graph this because our letter's not on the left. We need to flip-flop this around so we can graph it. If we're going to flip the C and the 8.8, we also need to rewrite our inequality. Right now, alligator or Pac-Man is eating the 8.8. We need to flip it so it's still eating the 8.8. Now we can make our number line to graph it. So I'm going to put 8.8 in the middle. If you want to put 9 over here and 8 over here, you can, because 8.8 would be in the middle of those two numbers. If you'd prefer to go by decimals and say, hey, this would be 8.7, 8.8, 8.9, either one works, as long as you have a less than number on the left and a greater number on the right. So this one is equal to, so it's a closed circle. And then like an L, less than would be to the left. Bottom two, draw your line down. We want y by itself, so subtract 8. We have less than or equal to y. These are all negative, same sign, add and keep. So negative 16. But you cannot graph this. We need to flip this around so the letter's on the left. So we have y, negative 16, and then flip our symbol around. Now we can graph it. Put a negative 16. Now this is why we don't put a 0 in the middle, because if we did, we'd have to write a lot of numbers to get to negative 16. 0 would be over here on the right, so going down towards 0, and then our bigger negative numbers going away from 0. This one has equal to, so closed circle. And then it's not like an L less than, the opposite would be greater than. So numbers are greater than negative numbers, well, the positive numbers, so towards the right. This one we want x by itself, so subtract 4. X is less than, and then 5 minus 4 is 1. This one already has the letter on the left, so we can just graph it. 0, 1, 2. And then this one is just a less than, so it's not equal to, so open circle. And then less than is to the left. Less than 1 would be 0, negative 1. Our last step here is translating sentences. So we need to write the verbal sentence as an inequality and then solve it and graph. So a few reviews here. A is like an L less than B, like it says, or A is fewer than B. Less than, fewer means the same thing. Same thing here, A is greater than B, it means the same as A is more than B. And almost identical situations with the equal to, except A is at most B, means A has to be less than or equal to B, means B is greater essentially. And then A is no more than B. A can't be greater than B because A is less than B. So let's write these first. It says the sum of 11 and m. So a sum means we're adding, so we're going to add these two numbers together, 11 and m, 11 plus m, is greater than, not like an L, the other way. Oops, and I accidentally put an equal to. It's just greater than, it doesn't say equal to, so greater than a negative 23. And then we have to solve it. So we want m by itself, I'm going to subtract 11. So we have m is greater than, these are all negatives, give us a negative 33. So let's draw a number line. I'm going to put negative 33 in the middle. 0 is always to the right of the negative numbers. We're going away, we're getting more negative. And then graph it. This does not have the equal to, so this is an open circle. And then greater than, you can put an arrow in here. Greater than will be towards the right, towards 0 in the positive numbers. Last one for 6.1. The difference, different means we are subtracting in the order n and 15, so n minus 15 is less than or equal to 37. So like an L, less than or equal to 37. So solving this, we want n by itself, so add 15. So we have n is less than or equal to, add these up, this makes 12. So 52. So 52 in the middle. So we count 51, 52, 53. This one has the equal to, so this is a closed circle filled in. And then like in L, less than 52 would be towards 51. Or put an arrow in there showing it's pointing to the left. The second half of our lesson is now on multiplication and division. Still one-step equations. But we have our new rule that we need to follow. This is a rule that you just have to follow. If you don't understand why, come ask me, and I can explain why. So it says, in an inequality, when we have less than or greater than, what do you do if you multiply or divide by a negative number? So if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality. Meaning if you have less than or equal to, you have to flip it and make it greater than or equal to. So let's take a look at some examples and see, do you have to flip or not? And remember, you only multiply or you only flip if you multiply or divide by a negative number. So solving this, this is x divided by 3. So the opposite of dividing by 3 is multiply by 3. 3 over 3 cancels out, it's just 1x, or just x. And then 8 times 3 is 24. This one has the letter on the left, so we can graph it. We did not multiply or divide by a negative, so we left our inequality the same. So 24, we have 23, 24, 25. And this does not have the equal to, so this is an open circle. And instead of less than, it is greater than. Greater than 24 would be 25. Next, draw your line down. This is divide by negative 4, so we're going to multiply by negative 4, do the opposite of what we see. Those cancel out. Oh, we multiplied or divided by a negative number, so we have to flip our inequality the other direction now. So it's the opposite way. And then 12 times negative 4 is going to give us 48. So we can graph that. Negative 48 in the middle. 0 would be to the right of the negatives, like on your number line. So going down towards 48 would be 47. And away would be 49. This one is an open circle because it's not equal to. And then greater than is to the right. Greater than negative 48 would be towards 0, or the positive numbers. Draw your line down. The opposite of dividing by 2.5 is multiplying by 2.5. Those cancel out. We have y is less than or equal to. Now some of you might be thinking, well, here we're multiplying by a negative. That negative was already there. We multiplied by 2.5. 2.5 is a positive number, so you do not flip your sign. Our answer is just negative. 4 times 2.5, well, 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 0.5 is 2. Half of 4 is 2, so it's really a negative 10. You can also use your calculator if you're not sure. So on my number line, I have a negative 10. And then zeros to the right, so negative 9 going down, and negative 11. This is a closed circle because of the equal to here. And greater than, it's not less than, greater than would be towards the right. These ones all happen to be greater than. Alright, now we're doing a little bit of division here. This is multiply, so the opposite is dividing by negative 3. Oh, we divided by a negative. If we multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to flip our inequality. So right now it's greater than, we have to flip it to make it less than. So those cancel, we have x, and 24 divided by negative 3 should be negative 8. So on our number line, put negative 8 in the middle. Negative 9 would be less, and negative 7 will be greater towards 0. So this one is an open circle because it's not greater than, it's less than. And less than would be to the left. You can put an arrow in there pointing to the left. Otherwise, you know the bigger negative numbers are less. Same thing here, we're going to divide by 7. So we have a is greater than or equal to. We didn't flip our sign because we divided by a positive number, even though our answer is negative. If you want, you can convert this to a decimal, but I'm just going to graph it like it is. I know 0 is over here, so negative 2/7 would be greater, and negative 4/7 would be a less number. So this one is equal to, so this is a closed circle, and then greater than is to the right, towards the positives. Anything greater than a negative would be a positive. Last one, try this one on your own and then check to see if you got it right. It says multiply, so we need to divide by negative 6. We divided by a negative, so we have to flip our inequality the other direction. So we have z, and then 42 divided by negative 6 is negative 7. But we can't graph it like this, so we need to rewrite it. Flip the z and the 7. And our alligator, our symbol's eating the negative 7, so it needs to stay that way. So flip it around so that we can graph it. If you try and graph it like this, you will get a wrong answer. You can't do it. So this is negative 7, negative 8, and then this is an open circle, because there's no equal to, and less than is to the left. A couple more like we've done. First, it says find the product of m and negative 1.2. That is less than 3.6. So product means multiply. Multiply m times negative 1.2. So I put this in parentheses so it doesn't look like m minus 1.2. It's times that negative there is less than, just second L, less than, no equal to there, and 3.6. So let's solve this. The opposite of multiplying is dividing, so we're going to divide by negative 1.2. So those cancel, we have m. We divided by a negative, so our sign flips. And then 1.2 goes into 3.6. You can use your calculator, it should be 3 times. 1 goes into 3 times, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. So let's graph that on our number line. A negative 3. Negative 4 would be less. Negative 2 would be greater towards 0. This one is an open circle. And then greater than pointing to the right. 0 is greater than negative 3. Negative 2 is greater than negative 3. Last, the quotient. Quotient is a fancy word for dividing. M and 2. In the order that they give it to, m divided by 2. Just like we did m times negative 1.2. M divided by 2 is greater than, so not like an L, greater than 23. So if we solve this, the opposite of dividing is multiply. So multiply by 2. 2 over 2 cancels out, we have m. And then 23 times 2, doubling it, double 20 you get 40, double 3 you get 6, 46. And then let's graph this. 46, so 45, 46, 47. This is an open circle, there's no equal to, and greater than is to the right. Last slide, we need to do a little bit of writing, solving a real world problem. It says you have $90 to buy CDs for your friend's party. The CDs cost $18 each. What are the possible numbers of CDs that you can buy? Well, we know we have $90 to spend. I always like to write the number first so we can put our symbol in front, less than or greater than 90, because you read this direction. So we would read less than or greater than or equal to $90. So we know we could spend exactly $90, so we could be equal to $90. We don't have more than $90, so we can spend less than, like an L, or equal to $90. Well, what costs less than or equal to $90? Well, the CDs cost less than or equal to $90, and we know that they cost $18 each. But we don't know how many, so I'm going to multiply by the number of CDs and use the letter C. So 18 times the number of CDs has to be less than or equal to $90. So let's figure out how many CDs we can buy. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we have C is less than or equal to, and I'm going to plug this into my calculator. 90 divided by 18, I get a nice 5. Oops, that didn't work out very nice. C is less than or equal to 5. And then graph it on your number line. Close circle, pointing to the